One of the guys showed me this CNN article, child sex trafficking. It's probably not what you think it is. Actually, we know it's not what they claim it is. So these people, guess what? There's going to be supposedly about children and protecting them, but it's going to be used to attack men. I guarantee you that. Now, look, CNN, they asked this article, you have to dance. We can make a little money like that. That's what Chandel, then 13, said to her boyfriend, said her boyfriend told her at a party that she had taken her to some 12 years ago. That's how it began. Chandel, now 25, recalled. Gradually, the man she thought was the only person who loved her or cared for her demanded more. Now, the first thing you got to know is that this is a very extreme example. This is not standard. But so they say it's not what you think it is, but we're going to paint it as what you think it is. You know, that there's all these male psychopaths that snatch up little girls. The other thing you should notice is that why does she think that he's the only one who cared for her? Where's mommy and daddy? The source of this problem is that mommy and daddy are neglectful. And this article is not going to suggest that they go to the source and protect the children at the source of the problem, right? It's going to be first about these, one in a million type scenarios, the worst case, and then they're going to go after the Johns, the average guy who's just trying to get by. I trust you that. Here's another thing. And let's see, just before, even now, it is difficult for Chandel, who requested CNN use only her name due to privacy concerns, to talk to strangers about what she was forced to do with men. Guys, what happened to hashtag Me Too? You notice that when someone's in real trouble, hashtag Me Too isn't an option. Why not? I'll tell you why, because real victims don't want anybody to know. So the girls who use hashtag, they didn't suffer something like this. They probably didn't suffer anything. That's why if someone uses the hashtag Me Too, I just assume they're lying. I don't listen, believe. I do the opposite. So there's that. She left an abusive situation at home. Her dad was on drugs and her mother had her own issues. Do you see the problem right here? I'm going to translate what they mean when they say her own issues. She had no excuse. The father was on drugs, so we all know that drugs is a mitigating factor. It can turn good parents neglectful and neglected parents abusive. But her mother probably wasn't into drugs. If she had an issue like mental issues or something, they'd mention it. So she was just a neglectful parent. So, and like I say, these people are not going to do anything for this girl when she's in the home. They're not going to villainize the parents, especially the mothers. It's only going to be once she starts selling her body to men, that's when they have the problem. And that's what this is about, right? Shendel is among the many victims of sex child trafficking, the commercial sexual exploitation of children. That makes it sound like it's an industry, but there isn't an industry any more than there's an industry for shoplifting. It's a case-by-case basis. It's just a crime that gets committed. While the term trafficking evokes for many images of children kidnapped off the street, smuggled across borders, and moved from place to place, that's rarely the case. Social workers and researchers say, well, no kidding. I knew that anyway. So why are they coming up here at the start and giving the worst case scenario like it is? This is a propaganda piece to attack men. By the way, Hollywood loves a very dramatic abduction and similar stories, but that's not what typically happens in trafficking cases. Yeah, like Taken, where the evil foreign man steals the precious white girls. Everyone loved that film. None of these feminist garbage pickers were against Taken. They love that film. What it is, these young girls they run away, they have nowhere to go, and they know they can trade their bodies for safety. By the way, do they include all the young guys who these young girls come up and say, "I'll be your girlfriend. Can I stay at your place?" That's what I mean about the typical. That's more likely the typical. Those young girls are probably considered sex trafficked. And you know something? It's the guys that get exploited. Because these young girls, maybe they're 14, 15, they run away. They shack up with a guy who's like 21 or 2, who has a job and a place. And then when they get older and they don't need them anymore and they start working, they toss them aside. So there's a lot of exploitation of young men that will never get mentioned by this article. Let's see. It's not the stranger danger in the way that we like to think about it. Of course it's not. It's about vulnerability and risk meeting $1 billion industry. There's no industry as far as I know. It's not an industry when a young girl just walks up to a guy and offers him sex for food or something. It's sad existence for her and something should be done for her, but that's not an industry. Filled with exploitive predators who are, whether they are Johns, there you go, or pimps looking to continually feed the need to supply. He says Johns, they're making them out like they're guys rubbing their hands saying, "I really like teenage girls and I know this place where I can get them." That's not how it works. The average John is ashamed that he goes to prostitutes. Men want the girl who is going to be their girlfriend and shack up with them and give them intimacy. That's what it is. These Johns are the ones that are equally exploited. And even the pimps, do they include the guys who these young girls come to and say, "Look, some guy that I gave sex to isn't paying up," right? Often the pimps are working for the hookers. There are no reliable estimates of number of victims. Well, no kidding. It's impossible to put a number on how many children are being commercially sexually exploited, researchers say, because there's no system in place of it. Well, no kidding. There's no system to track shoplifting, is there? Because there is no big industry that you can tag to, and these people know it. Depending on how they're identified by authorities, children might be labeled as juvenile delinquent, a child welfare case, a runaway, right? By Samantha Vardaman, whose mission is to end sex trafficking. That's like having a mission to end murder. It can't be done. So this is a fascism. I guarantee you that. And of course, they don't like these labels, right? Because these labels are accurate. So what they want to do is put all these labels under sex trafficking, right? So a runaway may not even be putting sex out. Like I said, that runaway might just have a boyfriend who's willing to take care of her, like daddy. And they're going to consider her a sex trafficker, a victim of it, that is. The label that gets assigned to that child is going to dictate whether they get counted and based on a number of commercial sexual exploitation. There you go. That's her problem. There's a lot of cases where they aren't being sexually tracked, commercial, that bullshit. Sorry, I'm screwing up. Commercial sexual exploitation. They're not being exploited sexually. If anything, a lot of these girls are sexually exploiting the man. They plan on dumping him as soon as life gets good. So her problem is that, we can't use all these, we can't trump up the numbers, is what she's saying. The average age of those trafficked was 17, and the number sharply declined of those older than that were identified by the hotline. Of course they are, because these young girls are turning young women. They can get jobs at 18, 19, 20, and they don't have to sell their bodies anymore. So the problem when they were selling their bodies is because they had terrible home lives. And these people are not going to go after that. They're not going to be there for them. The exploiters are almost always men. That is, they need male pimps to enforce things. The experts say the victims are usually female, although boys are trafficked too. The boys don't have a choice like the girls do. I guarantee you something. If a young boy who run away from a bad home situation, if he could shack up with an older sister type who would take care of him, he would do it in a heartbeat, and he would love it. And unlike the girls, he wouldn't leave her when he turned 18, 19, 20. He would probably stay your boyfriend and say, thank you for taking care of me. Boys do not have this out. And you'll notice here's a compound and it's for girls only. The Well House of Ogdenville, Alabama, a recovery facility for survivors, have made it that many of the girls and women were sexually abused as children. Yeah, you see, this is for girls only. So those boys that are in trouble, screw them. An adult woman living there was now trafficked as a child by her father, according to the Well House director, Carolyn Prater. Okay, again, it's parental abuse. She has described just the horror of it all, Potter said. And then when she was able to leave the family home and felt her siblings were safe, she ended up being trafficked as an adult and fell right back into it. How can she be trafficked against her will and fell right back into it? What happened is she had no ability to get a job probably, and she went back as a free-willed adult to sell her body. See? So this is the bullshit narrative they're coming up with. This is disgusting. The Well House houses adult survivors of commercial sexual exploitation on its peaceful 63-acre campus, and many are young women who were trafficked for years, starting in their teens. There you go again. This is only for women. So the boys, when the boys run away, they just become homeless. These people don't give a shit about children. This is what I'm talking about. This has never been about the protection of children. This is the using of children to leverage to get at guys. That's what this is. This commercial sexual exploitation of children is really everywhere. How would it be everywhere? In other words, there would be tons of runaways. In other words, parents are shit at parenting. And again, they're not going to go after that source of that problem, are they? Because mothers are involved and they have their own issues. Now here's the final one. Let's see. They're talking about this one. I do agree with them. The girls are picked up by the police and are often charged with a crime. I'm 100% with them on that. Girls and women should be free to sell their bodies. It is their bodies. But I also believe that men should be free to buy. I absolutely believe that. This should be decriminalized. Now, Seattle and King, Washington have almost no arrest for people in prostitutions. You know, there's significant accountability for sex buyers. There you go. That's guys, especially people trying to buy sex from children. What if they're not buying from children, though? They're still considered criminals, aren't they? And these guys, by the way, like I said, these guys would prefer to have a full-time woman in their lives. So if they're buying a prostitute, it's because they can't. And here's the disgusting one. Prostitution and sex buying in most states is relatively equivalent crimes. They should be. They should be either both criminal or both not criminals. You know, even though a person in prostitution may be doing so, that they're not homeless or so they can feed themselves, but not buying sex out of some sort of basic need of survival. This is bullshit. This is bull because the guys who are buying it, like again, they're not rubbing their hands and saying, "Oh, I can't wait." they have a basic need. And a lot of these women are they shack up with guys. Prostitution has never gone away ever and has existed everywhere in every country throughout history because guys do have a need. And there's always this kind of group here, these disgusting group that's always trying to deny that to them. This is what it is. All this should be decriminalized. And if you're worried about children, then these people should actually do that. They should be addressing the source of the problem, which is bad home lives. And they also should, just a minute, and they should also look after the boy children, which they don't. So this is proof positive that these people are just using a sob story to get after Johns, particularly. So don't be fooled by this at all. Oh, by the way, like I said, they're also including juvenile delinquents. So they're also including that girl that isn't having any problems at home, who's at school, who there's nothing going on with her life, but she just found that she gets easy money from spreading her legs. So that's the kind of crap I don't like either. That kind of girl, what can I say? I mean, I won't say anything, but it's just, you can see the bullshit. And that's also exploiting men too. Well, that's all I have to say about this. We'll end it here.